Hey guys, I'm Looseie and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be picking up where we left off in part one with our Evolution of Gaming podcast slash vodcast, interview, whatever you want to call it, with our friend the interviewer. So without any further ado, let's just jump right in and I hope you guys enjoy.
We were talking about how the average gamer has evolved, becoming more of a consumer that wants to instantly win and just devour games. And that is actually, I think, dictating the market of the games that get put out. And that's like causing this shift towards, these free to play games that become the most profitable because people just want to pay to win.
It's so prevalent that it's in your face in just about every aspect of whatever game you're playing. You know, you're gonna be running into not every single game, but I mean of the majority of them. You're gonna run into some of these issues along the way. You know, and then sometimes you won't run into pay to win issues, but because of that, you'll run into other issues like, say, performance issues. Maybe it was made on an older engine. The game's still good, all the systems are still good, and it's worth the money. But you're gonna sacrifice something for that. It's kind of crazy. In fact, the Swords of Legends game, the one I've been playing, it's the least pay to win game I've come across in, like I said in the video, like 10 years. It's crazy.
I found it refreshing just to hear that. How would you personally, I guess, draw the line between, a decent or useful cash shop and simply paying to win?
Well, that's such a complicated question because first off, we'd have to come up with a definition of pay to win. And my personal one is relatively simple.
Well, let's make that a question. How would you define pay to win?
Pay to win is any system that could require you, and let's be honest, most cases it does require you to spend extra money other than the purchase of the game. It has to affect gameplay. If it affects gameplay, then basically that's my easy way of defining pay to win. If the money that you just spent within the cash shop legally, when I'm talking about spending money in games, I'm not talking about going to third-party websites. I'm talking about using the official means to get things, the cash shops. Or maybe they have a web shop, a website. Maybe they have both. Who knows? Some games do. But anything that actually affects gameplay. Now, you might be asking, well, what is that? Well, that's a bad question. The better question to ask is, what doesn't affect gameplay? Well, that's a much easier question to answer. And in all honesty, cosmetics is one of the only things that doesn't affect gameplay. That's probably, I can't even honestly think of anything else right now that a cash shop would sell other than cosmetics that would not affect gameplay. Because anything else other than a cosmetic is going to affect gameplay. Like, that's the reason it's there. So what do you do at that, when you get to that crossroads? Basically, that would be my definition of pay to win. Anything that alters gameplay. If there's something in the cash shop that alters the gameplay, then yes, that's pay to win.
The other line you said, which is so true, is that the good design for this game was always there. We just put a shop in front of it. We just made you have to pay for it first. But the way this game was meant to be played, or the best experience, was always there. The design was there. We just put a shop in front.
Yeah, it was purposefully, and with Arcade in particular, that the heart of the cash shop was so entwined with how a lot of older players like myself became accustomed to the game that once you removed it, what little player base you had left was gone. And it was because, again, some of us like those hardcore aspects, like old Arcade. You could break shit going to Celestial. Like, that was the most excruciating thing in the world. When you just got, like, say, an Obsidian, you just made, an Obsidian sword at the beginning and that was, let's not even say Obsidian. Let's go to, like, Ethereum. And I know you don't know what I'm talking about now, but some people will, that's going to hear this. They know what Ethereum is and that whole gear set. And there's nothing worse than finally getting 7 pieces and then you're trying to roll Celestial and get that buff. and one of your pieces blows up, and you're like, motherfuck, because you have to go through 6 sets of RNG just to get back to this piece. Not to mention try to roll it to Celestial again. And anyway, it was very punishing, but it was very rewarding whenever you did have the things. But all of that reward could be bypassed, usually by the cash shop, because you could advance yourself, and instead of failing 10 times in a row, you might only fail twice, and then you would get. So if you spent $100 and you only failed twice every roll, I spent no money and I failed 9 out of every 10 rolls. That means when I finally got my success, the guy who was paying a few hundred, and it was a few $100s to do this for pieces of gear, each piece of gear, you're going to get, in those same 10 rolls, you're going to get 5 pieces of gear. Where in my 10 rolls, I got 1 piece. Yeah, and not to mention just 1 versus 5 pieces, but think of how much money I lost in those 9 fails, where you only failed 5 times and you succeeded 5 times. Now, it'd be different if I failed 9 times and succeeded 9. That would be different, but it was not like that. It was never designed like that. It was always designed to have this advantage with these few items that you can only get from the cash shop. I mean, hell, they even went so far as to introduce something called the Silver Regrade Charm, which was like, I think, $40 or $80 to get one because you had to get 2 fragments and combine them. And that charm just stopped the piece of gear from breaking if the enchantment failed. That's all it did. So if your enchantment failed, you just didn't have to worry about your gear shattering into thin air. $80. Plus, let's say you get 2 red regrade charms, right? Another $50. So you're looking at, and I say 2 regrade charms because you want to make sure that in case the first one fails, you can fucking tap it again. You're spending $150 on this piece of gear anyway. You might as well fucking tap it twice. And of course, it would roll usually on your first time with a superior red regrade charm, and then or if you're able, I'm sorry, with the silver one because you needed the red regrade charm to make that, to give you the extra benefit, and it wouldn't crack. But anyway, the point is, it was very expensive, and you did this to 1 piece of gear. And you had 16 pieces of gear, or 17. So, I mean, this is a long process here. But, give me a few $100 and we'll make it shorter for you.
What's an aspect or something from another genre of games that you'd like to see more of in MMOs, if there is such a thing?
I mean, see, I don't know. That's a weird question, and I'll tell you why, because of the way I look at it. I think almost every other genre has bit from the MMO's, plate from its table. A lot of the things that people think are new systems, like looking for group or instant matchmaking and stuff like that. They think that, oh, this must be new with this, genre. Well, no, it's not. I mean, I have to, again, go back to World of Warcraft. They were the originators. I mean, no one can argue otherwise in a common sense that they did not originate that idea of automatic matchmaking from a single player's perspective. Meaning, I'm a single person. I'm playing the game. I'm not in a party. I'm not in a guild. I'm not talking to anyone. I don't have any friends, whatever. Meaning no one else is... There's hundreds of people around me, but I'm not interacting with any of them. Well, I can click this button, and it's going to find 9 other people just like me. And it's going to put us together in a group, and it's going to teleport us to an objective that we need to go do. I don't even have to go walk there anymore. The first time that a system like that truly came into place on a large scale, on a very large scale. Yeah, you can argue that other games had that before. I'm sure some FPS had some form of a server matchmaking when you did like a Halo multiplayer and stuff. And, you've done things like that before World of Warcraft. But World of Warcraft's system, the way that it works and the mechanics of it, was game changing. And from that moment on, that, in my opinion, was one of the marks where a lot of the social aspect kind of dropped off from gaming, was because of that in itself. But to get back to your question.
That's a really good point that I didn't even think about because I'm not as experienced with MMOs, but you're right. Like, you're right when you say that. I asked you what's something that you've seen from other genres of games that you'd like to see more of in MMOs.
Right.
I think you're right. A lot of these other genres have taken from.
There's a lot of things like I've played all different kinds of genres of games. Now obviously I play the MMOs more than anything now, and there's a reason for it. Because I'll use Smite as a perfect example. I got a buddy of mine that he likes to play it a lot, and I don't really enjoy it too much. I get bored with it relatively quickly, and I'll tell you exactly why. It's very simple. It's a simple game. You start every match at level 1, and the match ends and you're level 20. You have 6 pieces of gear that you can get. You start with 0, and then at the end you have 6, and they're all maxed out. And that's, a match might maybe last 20 minutes. And then it's over. You go back to the starting screen, and then you start another match, and you're back at level 1. And you have the same 5 abilities and the same 6 pieces of gear. And you do the same thing for 20 minutes, and then you go back and you start it all over again. There's no progression. There's no solid sense of progression there. Anyway, going back to Smite, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you got a left click. So you have 6 abilities, and that's the most that you can ever do. Ever. Like ever. In the game. Ever. Is 6 things. So it's a very simple, a very simplistic system. And when the MMOs, what sets them apart from every other genre is they're the complete opposite. They're the culmination of every system that you may have seen in any other game. And in fact, a lot of those systems probably came from some of these games in the first place. Yeah. And I think part of the problem with MMOs, why it's the smallest genre of gaming, is because it's the most complex genre of gaming. You have to truly begin to not just press 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but you got to be able to move. You have to be able to communicate with other players. You have to be able to see and and of course this all comes along in every game. You get more experience. You start to see things before they happen and this and that. You start to learn mechanics, yada, yada, yada. But when you have all these systems being thrown at you at one time and you have to make sense of it, well, a lot of people just shut down. And I think that's why some games like Smite, they've taken off, and the MOBA has taken off. That multi-online battle arena, 5v5, 10v10. It's usually 5v5 type, games. And because it's simple. There's not a lot of thought process that has to go behind here. The only time you truly have thought process in games like that is when you're getting into very competitive areas of the game, the extreme competitive leagues. Then there'll be a little thought process, but in all honesty, it really isn't much. Most of the games, no matter how competitive you say you're trying to be, most of those games is what I call ulti-bombs. It's an ultimate bomb dumping. Whereas whichever team can drop the most damage on the other team in literally a fraction of a second wins. And it's kind of weird that a lot of games have gone to that type of gameplay where you can just instantly dump on someone. And they don't even get a chance to react. It doesn't matter if they're good or they're bad. You don't know yet because they never got a chance to even show you if they were bad. And that's just the truth of most of those games. It's a lot of just instant. And I can think of another game in particular. Well, 2 of them actually. Elder Scrolls Online is one of them that has always suffered from this, especially the PvP aspect. And what most people do is they'll run around a tower, right, as one person with this ridiculous setup of gear that is completely autoplay for them. Fucking Bethesda loves making autoplay gear. And they'll run around a tower, avoiding people, like 20 people chasing them. And this person is doing this so they can build up their ultimate meter. And because the more targets are around them when they pop it, the more damage it does. And because of the 2 sets they're wearing, it does a tremendous amount of damage. And then they have an AoE ability that the other set amplifies that does even more damage. And you can do this all with the click of 1 to 2 buttons instantaneously. So this one person will run around a tower for about 60 seconds until the bar's filled up. And then he'll turn around and just dump on 10 people. And just instantly kill them all. And do that for an hour. Never leave the tower and run in a circle. Because that's how the game has become. And that's how most games, that's why I like using Elder Scrolls as an example. Because most games, especially player versus player, is exactly like that. It's exactly like that. And I don't understand why that's become so popular. That type of gameplay. Like whatever happened to you each starting to do each other damage. Man, my life bar is going down just as equal as his. You back up, he backs up, he pops the defensive, does a counterattack, you fall down, he heals himself like 10%. You're like, son of a bitch, you get back up, you stun him. You know, you run off, you do a little bandage, and then you get back in combat, pap, pap. That kind of stuff rarely exists anymore. You're only going to find a fight like that against two extremely talented players. And both of those players are going to have to understand what the other player is trying to do. And then you'll have maybe a prolonged match like that. But the chance of that happening for the average gamer is, man, it's almost non-existent anymore. And going back to what you were saying earlier, the experience, those kind of experiences are the best ones that you can have socially. I'm not going to say emotionally, but
I can even further prove your point about why that might not have been the best question. Because I think back on some of the games I played, when I was always more interested in single player story type games with a campaign. I wasn't really interested in playing with other people, but I watch how titles like Halo and Red Dead, things like that have evolved. Every new game is more and more it's drawing from things from MMOs.
because there's a lot of good systems in there. There's a lot of good things that genre can bring. There's also a lot of bad things that it can bring. And just like you said, some of these games that you played, you've seen systems come from. You've also seen shitty systems come from too. And I'll throw out again the word I've been using the most in the past 24 hours is time gating. The time gating is something that is I don't know what the deal is with that.
That's one of my questions.
I'm not really sure about that. And my answer and my reason for time gating is it's very logical and sensible. I don't see how anyone could argue against it, and it's very simple. I'll tell it to you right now. All right, guys, so that brings us into the video. I hope you all enjoyed part 2 of this series. I do have planned a part 3 and 4 and maybe a 5 of this particular interview. And then if you guys really enjoyed the content, we'll continue with another series. So please let me know down in the thumbs. Please don't do that. Don't thumbs down the video. Please let me know down in the comments below what you guys think and if you want me to continue on with this series. And until then, I'll see y'all again.